Hare Krishna. So let's start today's class with Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavat Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhya Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadasadhyayiniim Amba Tvam Anusandadhami Bhagavat Gite Bhavadeshini Namostute Vyasa Vishal Buddhe Fullaravindaya Tapatra Netra येन त्वाय भारततैलपूर्णा प्रज्वलितो ज्ञानमाया प्रदीपा प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतं दुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दना पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवं सुतं देवं कंसचानूरमर्दनम् देवकी परमानन्दम् कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरु. Hare Krishna. So today we have chapters 7 and 8 of the Bhagavad Gita. So we'll start with chapter 7. So, so chapter 7 starts with Krishna telling to Arjuna, Arjun, now listen how with the mind attached to me and practicing yoga with absolute dependence on me, you will know me, the repository of all power, strength, and glory, and other attributes, the universal soul in entirety and without any shadow of doubt. I shall unfold to you in its entirety this wisdom, along with the knowledge of the qualified aspect of God, which is both form and without form, having known which nothing else remains yet to be known in this world. So Krishna is saying that he will be telling two aspects of God, which is a formless God and a God with form. So some people worship God with a form, like there's a proper murti, what you call the idol worship, and the formless God is the one which has no attributes, which has no form. It's uh, just unmanifest God. Okay, so continuing, Krishna says that hardly one among thousands of men strives to realize me. Of those striving yogis, again, some rare one devoting himself exclusively to me knows me in reality. So he's saying that very rarely someone comes to this path of yoga, and out of those rare souls, one very few are able to devote themselves exclusively to God or to Krishna. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, reason, and also ego. These constitute my nature divided into eight parts. This indeed is my lower material nature. Other than this, by which the whole universe is sustained, know it to be my higher or spiritual nature in the form of Jiva, which is the life principle, O Arjuna. So, Krishna is talking about two natures that he has, his lower nature and higher nature. Lower nature is the material nature with the earth, five elements, and the higher nature is the spiritual nature, which is the soul. Arjuna, know that all beings have evolved from this twofold Prakriti. Prakriti is nature, and that I am the source of the entire creation, and into me again it dissolves. There's nothing else besides me, Arjuna, like clusters of yarn beads formed by knots on a thread, all this is threaded on me. So he's saying that there's only one absolute entity, which is Krishna himself, and rest all, there's no duality. It's just all Krishna. Arjuna, I am sapidity in water and the radiance in the moon and the sun. I am the sacred syllable Om in all the Vedas, the sound in ether, and the vitality in men. I am the pure odor in earth and the brightness in fire. I am the life in all beings and austerity in the ascetics. So, basically, he's saying that whichever you hold of value in anything, whichever is beautiful in something, that itself is the God principle or Krishna. Arjuna, know me, the eternal seed of all beings. I am the intelligence of the intelligent, the glory of the glorious, of the mighty. I am the might, free from passion and desire. In beings, I am the sexual desire, not conflicting with virtue or scriptural injunctions. Whatever other entities there are, born of the quality of goodness, or the principle of activity, or the principle of inertia, which is sattva, rajas, and tamas. These are the three material qualities by which this world has been created, or these three qualities are present in each and every individual who is living in the material realm of this creation, which is sattva, that is the quality of goodness. Then is rajas, which is the quality of passion or the principle of activity. And the last one is tamas, which is the principle of inertia or ignorance. So Krishna is saying that all of these, just know them that they are evolved from Krishna alone. In reality, neither do I exist in them nor they do in me. So although they are being created from Krishna, but these material qualities are not existing in Krishna, or in these qualities, Krishna is not existing because Krishna is beyond these material qualities. The whole of this creation is deluded by these objects evolved from the three modes of Prakriti, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. That is why the world fails to recognize me, standing apart from these, the imperishable. So, since the whole creation, everyone in this world is deluded by these three modes, which is the quality of goodness, passion, or ignorance, which is why they are not able to see the reality, which is the imperishable, absolute divinity that is Krishna. For this most wonderful Maya of mine, consisting of the three gunas, is extremely difficult to break through. Those, however, who constantly adore me alone are able to. So, Maya is a potency or a power of God which acts as a veil or a curtain between the individual soul and the absolute soul, which is the Jiva and the Paramatma. So, what Maya does is that it has these three gunas or three modes of nature, which is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So, and Krishna is saying that it is extremely difficult to break through this Maya, but those who constantly adore Krishna are able to cross that Maya and reach their original nature, that is God. Those whose wisdom has been carried away by Maya and are demonic nature Such foolish and vile men of evil deeds do not adore me. So those who are under the sway of Maya, they are not able to love God. And Krishna is saying that these people of evil deed, demonic nature, and foolish intellect are carried away by Maya. Four types of devotees of noble deeds worship me. The seeker after worldly possessions. Okay, there are four kinds of people who are worshipping God. So these four kinds are first one is who is uh, seeking worldly possessions. Second one is the afflicted, someone in sorrow. The third one is the curious one, which is the seeker of knowledge. And the fourth one is the man of wisdom, who is all knowing, and then also he is coming to God. So in Hindi, they are called Arthi, Artharthi, Jigyasu, and Gyani. Arthi is someone who is after material possessions, money. Artharthi is one who is in sorrow or who comes in vain and asks God for the end of his suffering. Jigyasu is the curious one who is curious to know more, who is curious to know the nature of things. And Gyani is the man of wisdom who knows it all and he's coming to God just for the love of God. Of these, the best is the man of wisdom, ever established in identity with me and possessed of exclusive devotion, for I am extremely dear to the wise man who knows me in reality, and he is extremely dear to me. So he's saying that out of these four, the man of wisdom or the Jnani is the most dear to Krishna, and Krishna is most dear to him. Indeed, all these are noble, but the man of wisdom is my very self, such is my view. For such a devotee who has his mind and intellect merged in me is firmly established in me alone as the highest goal. In the very last of all births, the enlightened person worships me by realizing that all this is God. Such a great soul is very rare indeed. So when a person is on the path of God realization, so in his very last of the births, he realizes that everything and anything is God, but such a soul is very rare in this world. Those whose wisdom has been carried away by various desires, being prompted by their own nature, worship other deities, adopting norms related to each. But people who have many desires, so their wisdom is carried away to other deities or other demigods who are residing over certain material objects, and they are able to fulfill the desires of these people. So they are deluded by their desires in the worship of demigods. Whatever celestial form a devotee chooses to worship with reverence, I stabilize the faith of that particular devotee in that very form. So he's saying that if someone wants to worship some other form of God, then Krishna puts their faith in that particular form, and that devotee is stabilized in the worship of that particular deity. Endowed with such faith, he worships that particular deity and obtains through that deity without doubt his desired enjoyments as ordained by me. So Krishna is saying that he is ordaining that deity to fulfill the desires of that individual who is worshipping that deity. The fruit gained by these people of small understanding is perishable. The worshippers of gods attain the gods, whereas my devotees, howsoever they worship me, eventually come to me and me alone. So he's saying that the reward that one gets from the worship of deities because of their desires, that is a perishable reward. That means that it is going to end one day. It is not permanent. Whereas if you are worshipping Krishna or the Supreme God, then you will eventually come to God, and that will be lasting or permanent happiness. Not knowing my supreme nature, unsurpassable and undecaying, the ignorant persons regard me, who am the supreme spirit beyond the reach of mind and senses, and the embodiment of truth, knowledge, and bliss, to have assumed a finite form through birth as a ordinary human being. So Krishna is saying that the people who do not know him, they think he's just an ordinary person. He took birth as a human being, and he's no god or anything. But in reality, he is the supreme spirit. He is truth. He is knowledge, and he is bliss, which we call Sachidanand in Sanskrit. Like the God has three qualities. First one is truth, second is knowledge, and the last one is bliss or ananda. Wielded by my yog maya, my divine potency, I am not manifest to all. Hence, these ignorant folk fail to recognize me, the birthless and imperishable supreme deity, consider me as subject to birth and death. So he's saying that Krishna himself covers himself with his yog maya or his divine potency, and he doesn't manifest himself to everyone, and that is why these ignorant people uh, fail to recognize God, and they think that God is also subject to birth and death, just like any ordinary human being. Krishna continues, Arjuna, I know all beings, past as well as present, even those that are yet to come, but none devoid of faith and devotion knows me. So he's saying that he knows everyone who has come in the past, who is there in the present, and who is yet to come, but though they do not know him. They by they he means people who are devoid of faith and devotion. Like except for Krishna's devotees, none of them can know Krishna. O valiant Arjuna, through delusion in the forms of pairs of opposites, such as pleasure and pain, etc., born of desire and aversion, all living creatures in this world are falling a prey to infatuation. So everyone is under the sway of infatuation, which is why they are not able to realize God. But those men of virtuous deeds, whose sins have come to an end, being freed from delusion in the form of pairs of opposites born of attraction and repulsion, worship me in a firm resolve in every way. So people with virtuous deeds whose sins have come to an end, they are able to worship Krishna, disregarding the pairs of opposites: cold, heat, pleasure, pain, joy, grief, and so on and so forth. They who, having taken refuge in me, strive for deliverance from old age and death, know Brahma, the Absolute, the whole Adhyatma. So he's saying that people who have taken refuge in Krishna, they get delivered from the pangs or the sorrows of old age and death. Know Brahma. Brahma is the absolute divinity, the whole Adhyatma, the totality of jivas or embodied souls, and the entire field of karma, action, as well as my integral being comprising Adi Bhut, which is the field of matter, Adi Daiv, which is Brahma, and Adi Yagna, the unmanifest divinity dwelling in the heart of all beings as a witness. And they who possessed of a steadfast mind know thus even at the hour of death, they know me alone. So if you didn't get all these complicated words, Adhyatma, Adibhut, Adiyagna, we'll be covering them in the next chapter, which is chapter 8. So with this shloka, Krishna ends the chapter 7, which is called Jnana Vigyan Yoga, the yoga of Gyan and Vigyan. Gyan is basically unmanifest, and Vigyan is manifest divinity. Okay, so we'll come to chapter 8 now. So Arjuna says, Krishna, what is Brahma? What is Adhyatma? And what is Karma? What is Adhibhut? And what is Adidaiv? So he's asking for the meaning of five words here. First one is Brahma. Then he asked, what is Adhyatma, Karma, Adhibhut, and Adidaiv? Krishna, who is Adi Yagna? Here comes the sixth word. And how does he dwell in the body? How are you to be realized at the time of death? By those of steadfast mind. So Krishna says, the supreme indestructible is Brahma. So he answers the first word. One's own self is called Adhyatma. So the supreme soul, the supreme indestructible soul is called Brahma. One's own self or the individual soul is called Adhyatma. The primal resolve of God, which brings forth the existence of beings, is called karma. So the process of creation is called karma or action. So he has answered three words till now. All perishable objects are adibhut. Everything which is temporary, transient, or this material world which is going to end one day is called adibhut. The shining Purusha is Adidaiv, which is the God. That is called Adidaiv. So five of them have been answered. The sixth one remains Adi Yagna. And in this body, I myself, dwelling as the inner witness, am Adi Yagna, O Arjuna. So, God, which is residing in everyone as a witness, is called Adi Yagna. He who departs from the body, thinking of me alone, even at the time of death, attains my state. There is no doubt about it. So, he's saying that if someone is thinking about Krishna or God at the time of death, then that person attains the state of God. Arjuna, thinking of whatever entity one leaves the body at the time of death, that and that alone one attains, being ever absorbed in its thought. So, whatever you are thinking at the time of death, it is considered that your next life uh, goes there. Like if you're thinking of some of your dog, probably, then you will become a dog in your next life. So that is why they say that think of God at all times, so that at the time of death, when you think of God, then you reach the kingdom of God. Therefore, Arjuna, think of me at all times and fight. With mind and reason set on me, you will doubtless come to me. Arjun, he who with his mind disciplined through yoga in the form of practice of meditation and thinking of nothing else is constantly engaged in contemplation of God attains the supremely effulgent divine Purusha. Just give me a second here. Yeah. Okay, so he says that. Someone who has disciplined his mind through yoga in the form of practice of meditation and is constantly engaged in the contemplation of God attains the supremely effulgent divine Purusha, which is God. He who contemplates on the all knowing, ageless being, ruler of all, subtler than the subtle, universal sustainer, possessing a form beyond human conception, effulgent like the sun, and far beyond the darkness of ignorance, having by the power of yoga firmly held the life breath in the space between the two eyebrows, even at the time of death, and then contemplating on God with a steadfast mind, full of devotion, he reaches verily that supreme divine Purusha. So he's saying that with the power of yoga, uh, holding the life breath in the space between the eyebrows, this point, it is called the Agna Chakra in yoga. And then you have to contemplate on God with a steadfast mind and full of devotion. Then you are able to reach God. So, holding the life breath in itself is a task. Once you are able to get a hold of your life breaths, then you have to raise your breath higher. First, establish it at the heart center. So, this can happen when the senses, which is eyes, ears, nose, etc., are not outward bound, whereas they are inward bound. So, once you have your breath under control, which is regulated smoothly, once your senses are internal, then you are able to see your breath in the heart. You're able to fix the breath in the heart, and then you have to raise it up to the eyebrows. And once it is firmly established between the eyebrows, then you have to think of God with devotion. And that person, if at the time of death also is able to do this, then you are able to clear this material existence and you can reach the divine kingdom of God. Krishna says that I shall tell you briefly about that supreme goal, who is an embodiment of truth, knowledge, and bliss, which the knowers of the Veda term as indestructible, which striving recluses, free from passion, merge into, and desiring which the celibates practice brahmacharya. So Krishna is going to tell us about the supreme goal now. Having controlled all the senses and firmly holding the mind in the heart, and then drawing the life breath to the head, and thus remaining steadfast in yogic concentration of God, he who leaves the body and departs, uttering the one indestructible Brahma, Om, and dwelling on me in my absolute aspect, reaches the supreme goal. So, this is what we just discussed right now. Controlling your senses, firmly holding the mind in the heart, then drawing the life breath to the head, and remaining steadfast in yogic concentration on God. If you leave your body with this, and uh, also you utter the mantra of indestructible Brahma, Om, and think about Krishna in the absolute aspect, like everything is Krishna, then that person reaches the supreme goal. Arjuna, whosoever always and constantly thinks of me with undivided mind, to that yogi ever absorbed in me, I am easily attainable. So here, undivided mind is very important. Like we have to be very focused on God. Like we say that, so there's a word he and there's a word bhi in Hindi. So he means only God and bhi means also God. So we don't have to worship him with also, we have to worship him with only. Only and only. Everything which we are doing, which we are thinking, whatever mode we are in, We just have to focus on God. Like whatever we are doing, we just have to relate that with God. Great souls who have attained the highest perfection, having come to me, are no more subject to transitory rebirth, which is the abode of sorrow and transient by nature. So once you have attained God, then you don't have to come back in this world. Like you're not bound to come back in this world, which is transitory and transient, and it's an abode of sorrow. Arjuna, all the worlds from Brahmalok downwards are liable to birth and rebirth. But, O son of Kunti, on attaining me, there is no rebirth. So he's saying that all the realms of existence up till the Brahmalok, there are 14 realms of existence. They are all subject to birth and rebirth. Like you're born and you die. But Krishna's abode or the divine world uh, is not subject to rebirth, and it is beyond time, and it is beyond this material nature. Those yogis who know from realization Brahma's day as covering 1,000 Mahayugas, and so his night as extended to another 1,000 Mahayugas, know the reality about time. So Brahma is the creator of this universe. So and Mahayugas, what he's referring to is the cycle of time. So he's saying that one day of Brahma covers 1,000 Mahayugas, which is billions and trillions of years. And similarly, one night of Brahma is an equal number of 1,000 Mahayugas. All embodied beings emanate from the unmanifest at the coming of the cosmic day. At the cosmic nightfall, they merge into the same subtle body of Brahma known as the unmanifest. Arjuna, this multitude of beings being born again and again is dissolved under compulsion of its nature at the coming of the cosmic night and rises again at the commencement of the cosmic day. So, since we are bound by our desires, we have to come in this world again and again. When this world ends, that is the night of Brahma, we go back in the unmanifest creation. And when the day of Brahma comes, then we also rise with it. By we, I mean that all of us who are bound by desires and who are in this cycle of birth and rebirth. So far beyond even this unmanifest, there is yet another unmanifest existence, that supreme divine person who does not perish, even though all beings perish. So, since we are bound by this material desire, we have to come again and again. We have to take a birth, we die, and then again rebirth. But there is another existence of the supreme divine person which does not perish or which is not subject to birth and death. So our goal is to reach that divine plane where there is no suffering, where there is no rebirth. The same unmanifest which has been spoken of as the indestructible is also called the supreme goal. That again is my supreme abode, attaining which they do not return to this mortal world. So once you attain that supreme goal, you are not subject to return to this mortal world, which is full of suffering. Arjuna, that eternal, unmanifest Supreme Purusha, in whom all beings reside and by whom all this is pervaded, is attainable only through exclusive devotion. So, what is the means of realizing that Supreme Person? It is only and only devotion. Arjuna, I shall now tell you the time departing when yogis do not return, and also the time departing when they do return. So he's saying that depending on the death, the time of death of an individual, you can ascertain whether they are going to return to this mortal world or not. So he says, of the two paths, one is that in which are stationed the all effulgent fire god and the deities presiding over daylight. The bright fortnight, the bright fortnight is the month is divided into two parts. One is called the bright fortnight, and one is the dark fortnight, which is the full moon and the new moon. The 6 months of the northward course of the sun, respectively. The year is also divided in two parts. The first 6 months are the northward course of the sun, and the next 6 months are the southern course of the sun. Proceeding along it after death, yogis who have known Brahma, being successively led by the above gods, finally reach Brahma. So, if someone is dying in the bright fortnight of the month and in the 6 months of the northern course of the sun, then they are taken by the deities like fire god and other deities of the daylight to Brahma. So this is one path, and then there's a second path. The other path is that wherein are stationed the gods presiding over smoke, night, and the dark fortnight, and the 6 months of the southward course of the sun. The yogi taking to this path after death is led by the above gods one after another, and attaining the luster of the moon, enjoying the rewards of their action, return to this mortal world. Now, since the second path, these people are interested in the rewards of their action, so that is why they have this path of the southward course of sun and the dark part of fortnight. So they enjoy their rewards. They reach certain planes where they are uh, they have a good time because of the meritorious deeds that they did in this mortal plane. But that is limited. Like once that quota is over, they have to come back to this world. For these two parts of the world, the bright and the dark, are considered to be eternal. Proceeding by one of them, one reaches the supreme state from which there is no return, and proceeding by the other, one returns to the mortal world, that is, becomes subject to birth and death once more. So the first path is a path of no return. You reach the eternal abode of happiness, bliss, knowledge, truth. But in the second path, once your quota of good deeds is over, you have to come back to this mortal world. You fall down again and you come back to this world subject to birth and death. Knowing thus the secret of these two paths, O son of Kunti, no yogi gets deluded. Therefore, Arjuna, at all times be steadfast in yoga in the form of equanimity and strive constantly for my realization. The yogi, realizing this profound truth, doubtless transcends all the rewards enumerated for the study of the Veda as well as for the performance of sacrifices, austerities, charities, and attains the supreme and primal state. So he's saying the yogi who realizes this profound truth about the path in which there is no return. So he transcends all the rewards which are enumerated in the scriptures. He doesn't get deluded by these rewards, and he strives for the supreme and the primal state. So, this is the end of chapter 8, which is called the Yoga of the Indestructible Brahma. So, we'll close by we'll close today's class with this chapter 7 and 8 we have covered. So we'll just do a closing prayer before we end the class. Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardanam urvarukmiva bandhana mrityurmukshirmamrita. Hare Krishna.